Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Check it out. Today is going to be all about the Mavic Pro 2 and the Mavic Air 2. We're going to test some of these airdrops today. I've been kind of curious. I've seen some on Amazon. The prices are getting pretty cheap, like under $40. And I just wanted to see if I could purchase them and see how good they were, so you guys know if you're looking for maybe some type of remote airdrop to go fishing and whatnot, or whatever you wanted to do, drop little parachute guys out of the air. These kind of work off of one of the arm lights. You either turn that light off or on in the app, the DJI app, and that's how these things turn off or on. They have a little light sensor. Anyway, we're gonna unbox these little guys, put them on, see how they work, get outside and do some testing. And what we'll also do is we'll test the weight these things can handle at the same time. I haven't really done any videos on weight testing. If you were wondering on how much these things can hold, if you're trying to take your fishing bait out there, I'll just go ahead and put some weight on there and keep adding weight until these things can't hold up anymore. So we'll also do that. So stay tuned and let's test these things out. So the first one we're going to do is the Mavic Air. So we'll open this thing up, just show you what's all in the box. These are directly from Amazon. I bought this myself and I just really wanted to see how they perform. There's the instructions, leg extender kit, and here's the electronics. You see that little sensor in there, and that's going to detect if you have that light on or off. And this plugs into the brain module. Micro USB cable for charging the electronic device, and this is it here. It's kind of like a clamp. So you see that? It's just a clamp that goes over the drone and just clamps shut. And then it looks like it's surrounding the power button, so you can still turn the drone off and on if you have it clamped. And that's how that works. So you click the light on or off in the settings. One is open, one is closed. Anyway, this is the little brains of the unit. There's an on-off switch in here, and that's where you're gonna plug in the micro USB to charge it. This other little pack, basically, that's kind of neat. It's kind of giving you like a 2-for-1. So you've got, for 40 bucks around there, you're getting these clamp-on leg extenders for the front and the rear. Little keyring type of thing here, and a little circular Velcro. So we're going to be utilizing all these things when we do our drop test. It's not super professional. I mean, here we have just a printed page with the instructions on how to install this. Okay, according to how it shows it, it's just going just like this. So kind of just straight up. I guess we just have to make sure it's clamping over the power button and then click it shut. So that's the first step. Get that clamped on. That was fairly easy, and that thing clamps on really tight. So that's going to be able to hold some weight, that's for sure. The second step is we plug right in here on the top. There we go. And this is going to be running down to the bottom just like this. And grab your Velcro. And we're just putting it tightly right around that guy. You can see as I wrap this around, it looks like I can get it kind of underneath that drop mechanism on the left. Trying to overlap this Velcro as tight as possible. It looks like you want to get it kind of in the groove of where the body starts to flare out, so it's in that little nook, and just make sure it's really tightly strapped in. See that there? It seems to me some light can kind of get in there, so maybe you want to block that off with some tape or something, because you don't want this thing to be opening if you turn and the sunlight kind of shines in there. So maybe a little bit of a flaw. Here's where we can see why they give us the leg extenders, because it's just sitting on that low part of the light sensor. So we want to put these leg extenders on here. Okay, so the longer ones are going to be, it looks like the rear leg extenders. So you see how we pop that open, getting it on the rear, flipping it over, and it just kind of clicks in. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of loose. So I got to like slide it up a little bit higher. Well, you can't really clip it until it's down low. So I'll probably click it on, and then, yeah, you just gotta clip it on and then slide it up until it's nice and tight and they don't seem to be slipping down on their own. So we want to put the front ones on, so that's how they kind of open up, and that's all they're doing. See that? So they have little padded feet on the bottom just like the rear ones. So that's kind of neat how they fold up, just for space saving. And on the front here, it looks like you can do, it doesn't matter which leg is which, you just basically slide it right on. That's with everything mounted up, and from the sensor we have about 1 inch to the table now. So that's why they kind of include these little arms here. And yeah, that's not coming off unless you pull them off. Just hold the bottom of the arm here. I wouldn't really hold the motor, just hold the very bottom. And slide those up till they're nice and tight. There we go. Yeah, that seems to be nice and sturdy. Everything is touching the ground, all the legs. Cool, so let's get this thing fired up and see if it works. Turning it on. You're gonna see that red light blink a couple times. You have this function up here. By default, this turns off and on the light on the bottom. And here's how everything works. So remember, we gotta hit it twice. Light comes on and that opens. See that? And that's sturdy. Let's see if I pull on it. Yeah, that's not gonna break with a couple pounds of weight, so that's gonna be awesome. Hitting the function button twice again. Once to do auto, and then once to turn it on, and then that thing's gonna drop. So far so good. Let's put on the Mavic Pro 2 one, see if it's as easy as this one, and then we'll go out and fly them. Alright guys, let's get the other version going for the Mavic 2 Pro, shall we? So same thing, let's just go ahead and open it up and see what this thing's all about. Should be from the same company. So main device here, a little instruction manual here, USB micro charging cable, leg extenders and stuff like that in there. Just a bag in there. Anyway, first of all, there is the actual mechanism. So same type of deal. We have the round hole on top for the power cable. We have this latch system module with the charging port and the on-off switch. Again, if I turn it on, it's going to blink. And then when it's ready, it'll stay solid. Same exact setup, just a little bit larger to incorporate the Mavic 2. Now this will work with the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic 2 Zoom, because remember, essentially those are the same exact drone, just with different cameras. Let's see what we got. A whole bag of goodies in here. Oh, there was one more thing in that white bag, and that looks like that's the sensor module. See it? Same deal as the other one. 4 little black rubber bands, which is a little bit different than the other one. Little keyring deal. Oh, actually there's one more black rubber band, so that's 5. So these are the leg extenders for the Mavic 2. You can see same type of deal. They will clip on and extend the height for the front and the back so that the whole module does not hit the ground when it's set up. This one has the 3M sticky side you can peel off, and then these don't have any sticky on them. They're just double-sided Velcro. Oh, actually there were two clips like this, so we'll see what these guys do. So it looks like it's a little bit less in depth on how to put all this stuff on, so I guess I'm gonna find that out with you and we'll go through all this stuff. Front leg extenders, of course, super easy. It's just can go on one way. You just take the shape of it and push it on. These guys actually kind of snug it in nice and tight because the rubber kind of pushes onto the side of this plastic, and don't want to push it on too tight, but you don't want those to fall off, so push those on nice and solid. Work our way over to the rear. So the way these are going on, guys, quite simple. You can see how they have this little lip, which is a little bit different than the Mavic Air 2 ones. Put it right over the arm and slide it on up, and you can see how it's got this little thing there that kind of wraps and curves right around the edge of the arm elbow, and that way you know that this thing is on solid. Just push it down, clip it, and that's exactly where it has to be. No guessing whatsoever. It's not sliding back and forth like the Mavic Air 2 one was, so it's perfectly solid in there, and it clips on nice and tight. What a some great tolerances here. It's just too bad they forgot to put those little rubber feet on the bottoms. All right, guys, and for the main module, same thing. As we just want to have it, if it's facing us, the bottom is facing straight at us, we want to have the main module that we plug into on the right hand side. It looks like this one goes right above that laser sensor, right in between the laser sensor and that optical sensor. So we get it under the belly, and all we're doing is the same thing, pushing this thing over. Now this thing seems a lot tighter than the Mavic Air 2, and it looks like it's centering around the power button a little better. Yeah, that's really tight. Wow, I can't even move this thing. So it's almost like they're repurposing this. This is probably a kit to hold like a flashlight or something. See how you can just push them in? Let's try that real quick. There we go. push and snap them in, and you can see how you can twist this all the way. Probably put a little mini flashlight in there, and you can rotate it around. But of course you could use it for something else if you want, or not use them at all. But they do come with this kit. And you can also just pull them out nice and easy. You see how it's the same design as the Mavic Air 2, but this looks like it's a little bit more made for the arm here. You see how that just goes right over the light. There's not really any light infiltration there when it is on tight. You can see how that sensor in there is just right over that front arm light and tucked away and hugged in there really nicely. Doesn't really matter at this point. You just want to kind of wrap this thing around, plug it into the actual module nice and tight there. And this is where we're just gonna kind of put the rubber bands over. You could probably either do this with the extenders on or not. It looks like we're just taking these rubber bands here and putting them over a couple of times the wire just to hold it onto the arm. Probably would have been easier if I would have put these on without the legs on, but not too bad. They do stretch quite a bit and they kind of maintain their elasticity, so nice little low pro rubber bands there. See how that works? And then this front portion here, this is where we really want to make sure these rubber bands are holding it on nice and tight. So maybe one wrap is a little bit too loose. That one's on the bottom, this one is on the top. See that? We want our twist right on the end of the cable, just so all of this is flat. So the least amount of resistance for the wind of the propellers. I think I'm actually gonna put one more of these guys right in the middle here, so that wire is just really hugging the arm, just so there's no question, you know, if this wire is gonna come up and hit the propellers. There we go. That looks pretty good. Let's give it a try here. I'm just gonna kind of double wrap this one. And for this, see how easily those feet come off? For this, those will just come right off. And if I double wrap it, this will get a lot tighter on there. It'll really, now it's really hugging there. So you may wanna do that. Just double wrap these two on the end here. Twist it. Bring it down and under and over again. And yeah, there we go. Now our tension's really tight. That thing is not going to be sliding anywhere now. Boom. And there we go. Setup complete. Remember the feet? They were missing the rubber. So they threw this in the box so you can just cut it if you wanted to and stick the rubber in the feet if you wanted to do that. As far as these two Velcro strips though, really not entirely sure. I guess you could use it however you wanted. You could substitute the rubber band for these Velcro strips around the arms if you wanted to. But it seems like the rubber bands are the lowest profile and work the best, but at least you have options on how you want to attach these things in the box. Okay, now that this thing's all set up, let's turn it on and see if it works the same as the Mavic Air 2. So once we're in the settings, we want to go into the controller on the left. And right here, kind of in the middle of the screen, you see button customization. So those are the buttons on the back of the controller. See these guys here? C1 and C2 on the very back. Right now it's center autofocus. So you could do either one of these if you wanted to. Turn on off head LEDs. So I'm gonna click. I'm gonna actually assign my right hand trigger, that would be C2 to this one. So either button you want on the left or right hand side with your finger. And so that's done. There you go. So front lights off, the drop is closed, front lights on, just clicking the button. Boom. That's it. And of course, clicking it again, closing it. So you're only going to have to use that one time, right? And this thing is on solid, so I'm just pulling a couple pounds of pressure. And it seems like it's going to work really well. And what's cool about this, like I was saying in the beginning, guys, is that's going to work as long as you have range between your craft and your controller. These DJI crafts, especially the OcuSync technology, man, they can go for miles. So you have that capability to use this drop mechanism for miles, unlike those other cheaper ones that have their own radio signal button. All right, guys, there you have it. That's how to mount these things up. They seem to be working pretty good. We got the one on the Mavic 2 back there, and the one on the Mavic Air 2 right here. Anyway, let's get outside, test these guys, see how much weight they can carry, and also how this thing works. Meet you out there at the park. Just a fantastic day. I've just got a little breeze coming from this direction to my left at about, I want to say, variable 5. First of all, I've got this little bucket of weights, and we're going anywhere from 1 ounce up to 8 ounce. So we're just going to put these on this little mechanism I made right here. All this is some steel leader I had laying around for fishing. Just made a loop at the top and then gave it some length. Then I just have this little hook loop thing where I'm just going to be adding weights, slipping them over. If I want to, I can just kind of clip this closed just like that, twist it over if the weight starts to push this a little too far. So just a real simple weight hanging rig here I made, just kind of do it yourself. I just wanted to show you how much these things weigh, guys, and it should be 28 grams per ounce. So we're zeroed out. I'm just going to put it on here. And of course, this is without the wire and stuff. This is for the Mavic 2 one. So we've got about 47 grams, you know, without this wire that we put onto the arm and the rubber bands and stuff. And of course, the extended landing gear you're going to need to put on. So we're looking at about maybe 2 ounces. If it's 28 grams per ounce, roughly about 2 ounces for these kits. From there, we're adding that weight onto the craft, and then we're going to be adding this weight. And as a kind of a final bonus, remember this little spawn guy? I did a little drop test a long time ago with one of those aftermarket airdrops. I think it was on the Phantom 3, I believe it was. But he's back. Little spawn is back. I've got this little parachute from one of those airdrops I tested, and we're going to drop him with the parachute from pretty high. We're going to see how that all unravels and see if he's successful at dropping and deploying his parachute. I did end up putting this little black foam in here. I just basically cut a little piece of foam, glued it into that because it looked like I was testing at my house, and if the sun was low, shining into this little hole they left, it looked like it would trigger the drop mechanism. So kind of unfortunate. Would have been cool if they could have at least put that piece and glued it in there for you. You know what I mean? Because sunlight will get in there. Or like if you're doing night fishing and your flashlight shines at it, that will trigger it. Boom, pressing function. See how that pin just went in? So we're ready to start adding things on. So here we go with the weight. So let's start off with an 8 ounce. So on the DJI Fly app, it's saying it thinks it can fly for 25 minutes right now. Let's see how that adjusts while we, you know, sort of bog this thing down. So we're putting an 8 ounce weight on, lead weight, letting it go gently. See the 8 there? It means it's an 8 ounce. You can hear the propellers really ramp up. And look at that, it dropped our flight time to almost half. We have 15 minutes left of flight, and it's trying to calculate how much power it's drawing. So no errors yet with 8 ounce. Let's take another 8 ounce, same exact weight, and let's put it on. Remember, this is the Mavic Air 2. Seeing how much it can hold. Another 8 ounce. I have no errors on the screen yet. And I'm seeing the time is dropping pretty radically. It's only 10 minutes now. So guys, that's a pound. That's 16 ounces. So that's holding over a pound because of the 2 ounce mechanism, right? So that's like a pound and 2 ounces of weight. It says it can only fly for 9 minutes like this with 1 pound attached. No errors on motors up at the screen. Let's try something else. Let's try a 4 ounce added to this. So adding a 4 ounce. There we go. So I have, if you can see that in my screen, it says max power load reached, fly with caution. So I'm going to take that 4 ounce off again. There you go. And that little error did disappear. So I would say do not carry anything more than a pound with this. I'm going to clip this on. And let's try to fly around with this pound of weight, okay? So that little motor like caution is coming off and on just because there is some wind. So let's see if we can fly around. So all you need to do is get your weight out, right? Let's see if it drops or anything. I'm just kind of going steady around the park. So this is kind of how you'd be flying, like if you're putting your bait out. You'd probably definitely be higher. Let's stop. You see how it compensates? That's pretty awesome. Compensates really well, not getting that motor overload anymore on the screen. So that's awesome. Let's see if we can actually pick up altitude with this much weight. Let's full throttle up. Yeah, man, and it's still going, oh, pretty good. Let's do full throttle down. Woo! And I'm gonna let off right now. Ooh! Wow! Oh! Did you see that? So letting off, you gotta be careful. Let's put these things back on. It just kind of broke my clip. But the drone didn't crash. Let's fix that little arm there. The drone did not crash. So that's good to know. I mean, if you're in the water, maybe it would be a different story. So let's get this back on here. One weight, two weights. Again, that's a pound of weight, and it's still doing fantastic. Let me move the camera down here so you guys can kind of see this. See that? So the camera's pitched all the way down. So I'll have that up on the screen so you can like look at your bait, you know, while you're going out. I can still go up and down. So if you're gonna come down, I'd advise just really slowly come down, because if you're full throttle and you let off there, it's not enough time for it to like ramp the motors up, right? So it's still saying we have like 6 minutes to fly, so you could successfully like launch a couple of slide baits out there, big baits. And again, this is all, you can have the remote control as long as you can control the drone with the DJI OcuSync, right? And it seems to be putting up with about 5 mile/hour wind, no problem. More wind, I couldn't say for sure, but I'd say maybe around 10, it'd still be able to do this, estimating. So 1 pound of weight hanging off the bottom. Awesome. See how I went down slowly and I let off and it was able to compensate for that. It seems laterally it's really doing a good job at taking care of that. All right, so 1 pound of weight. Let's just drop it right here so you really, know how this thing operates, and if it can drop a pound of weight using this stainless steel leader on the arm there. So we're just gonna drop it. I think you have to push this function button twice. So pushing it once goes into auto light mode, then you have to push it again and it's gonna turn the light off. So 3, 2, 1, pushing the button, boom. You see how those weights dropped and the drone just went up like maybe a half a foot to compensate. Got a lot quieter, motors aren't having to work as hard at all. And now if I look on the screen, my flight time is increasing like doubled. It was down to like 5 minutes with that pound of weight on it. Now it's up to like over 10. Well, that's great. This thing is working pretty darn good for this setup. Let's go ahead and land it and try the Mavic Air 2. Say we're fishing and there's really not much wind. I just want to land right back on my little table. Yeah, it's still very stable. I'm just holding down and kind of adjusting the lateral movement as it came down. And just perfect, man. So let's boot up the Mavic 2 Pro. This bad boy. This is a little bit older than the Mavic Air 2, but I would assume this could carry possibly a little bit more. We're gonna test that out. It is a bigger bird, heavier bird, but also has larger propellers, larger motors to give it more power. Get it a little bit away from the table here. There's that amazing beeping sound again. Let's get our 8-ounce weights here. We'll start with those. There we go. So there's 8 ounces. And let's see how long it thinks we can fly. It's saying 14 minutes with that 8 ounces on. With it off, it was around 20. little bit above 20. So there's 8 ounces. Here's 1 pound. You can hear those motors just really get up there. So from adding 1 pound, my flight time is really dropping. Let me go ahead and tilt this camera down so you can see the weight on there. So say you have your fishing stuff on there, right? You can see where you want to drop it. So that dropped down to 10 minutes when I put those on. So same thing, about a pound of weight is going to half your flight time. So remember that. I'm not getting any errors on the screen. Let's try, remember like the Mavic Air 2, let's try a 4 ounce. So there's 4 more ounces. Dropping our flight time even more, but not a whole lot. That's like 9 minutes. Not getting any errors yet. So let's do a 6 ounce. So that'll be an extra a pound and 10 ounces. If it can do this. So 6 more ounces. It's still going. Whoop, whoop, whoop. They can't do it. Okay. I want it to land. So I'm pushing up. I'm going to take this off. Wait, why is it? Oh, it's seeing the weights. I think what it's doing is it's seeing those weights as possibly the ground. So definitely turn those sensors off in the settings. Let me do that real quick. I'm just turning off all the sensors. Now let's see if I put this back on and if it'll try to do that again. Okay, 1 pound and 10 ounces. Max motor speed. Oh, it just wants to land. So let's take that off. Whew. So when I put on that extra. Okay, let's just drop it real quick. We're just wanting to land. Drop. Please drop. We gotta turn off our. There we go. It just wants to land now. I'm gonna press X here. Okay. So what this one does, if you have too much weight, guys, it's gonna be really important for you to have your video feed on and know what this thing's doing. Because even if you have the sensors off and it senses it's too much for the motors, it'll start landing until you hit that X on the screen. So if you're over the water, boy, you don't want that to happen, right? So we did a pound and 10 ounces. We had to drop that load there, which worked good. You can see that, just press the right trigger. Doesn't seem to want to work with the recording on. But I think that may be a setting in the camera to turn the lights off and on when you're taking pictures. So I'll have to check on that, but just keep that in mind. Let's try 1 pound 6 ounces, okay? We tried 1 pound 10 and it didn't work too well. So let's try 1 pound 6. There we go. Okay. So that's 1 pound 6 ounces. Let's see if it does that same thing again. There we go. Flipped it shut. So 1 pound 6 ounces of weight. Okay, it can still go up. Let's fly it around a little bit. Oh, no, max motor speed reached again. Okay, I'm gonna have to take this off. Carefully, take that 6 ounce off and stop the landing. See how it did that? Once it reaches that max motor speed. So that was 1 pound 6 ounces. Should we try 1 pound 4 ounces? Let's try it. So a little bit less weight. But let's see if it gives us that max motor speed. 1 pound 4 ounces. Say you got 1 pound 4 ounces of bait. Oh, it's landing again. Okay. Yikes. Let's take that off. Whew, carefully. I'm just pushing up so it doesn't land, and then I'm pressing X after I took that off. Okay, we're just gonna try a pound Is it landing? Oh, it's max motor speed again. Okay, let's just try a pound. So having a little bit more problems with this than the Mavic Air 2. I'm getting this max motor speed reached up at the top here. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's just like a little yellow warning. Now we're at 20% power. Let's just see if we can fly around a pound of weight.
Battery level is low. The aircraft will go to the home point in 10 seconds.
So you can see how the low is coming on again. Low warning. It just wants to land now. I'm gonna try to press X. Okay, so you can X out of all this stuff, but the battery is 17%. Still holding steady, and I can still push up. Let's see how it is coming down. It's probably gonna be up, landing again. I have to hold up and push up. If I come down and let off, yeah, so it's very similar. Ooh, man, this thing really wants to land. 14% battery. So let's drop this weight. Oh gosh, just keeps doing this. Dropping the weight, pressing right trigger. Boom. Drone went up half a foot. Dropped her weight. Okay. Ooh, sorry, that was a little frustrating. It was a little frustrating for me too. But we will go through a pros and cons, guys, on these two drop mechanisms with each craft. Really wants to land now. I'll just pull down and land it already. It's only at 10%, but that's what DJI does, is they really stream at you when it gets below 20. Anyway, that was great. We had to drop our weight, but it really let us know what to expect on these two crafts while loading them down. Let's shut everything down here, and we'll do our final parachute drop, and then we'll do a pros and cons on everything. We'll talk about, we'll kind of rehash what happened when we did the Mavic Air 2. Then we'll also rehash on everything that happened with the Mavic 2 Pro and how they both worked. But let's drop this spawn with this parachute, see if this works. Since we're going to change the battery right now, I might as well show you guys how easy or difficult it is to change a battery if you need to do a quick battery swap. This Mavic 2 Pro seems a little bit easier than the Mavic Air because the Mavic Air has this extra little Velcro that has to hold the sensor on the bottom. The sensor is already attached to the arm, so all you need to do is unclip. Again, this one's much tighter than the Mavic Air 2. Take out your old battery, put in your new battery, clip it in, pull your clip back up, and just make sure you're kind of centered between these two sensors. And then all you're doing, clicking it right back on, and you're ready to go with your second battery. A few seconds for this, a few more seconds for that. Head LEDs auto turn off. So those are the LEDs that the sensor uses, right? So I think that's why it wasn't working when we had the camera recording. So I'm going to try to turn this setting off right here in the camera main settings. Head LEDs auto turn off. I'm going to turn to off. And let's see if that fixes our problem of filming while we drop it. Okay, so I got the rubber band and everything in there. Clicking it closed. Okay, so you see how that's going to work? The rubber band and the pin that he's holding on to are both on the same release pin, so it'll hold his parachute on there until he goes ahead and releases with the mechanism. So let's try to hand launch this, since it's going to be hard to launch it with him on the bottom. I'm going to just try to hand launch it. Let's do it. So we're going to do the auto launch, holding it away from my face. And remember, I have all the sensors off, so you want to be careful with this. Sliding to unlock. There we go. That was easy. So you might want to do that when you're fishing. Once you put your bait on, you can do it that way too. I'm going to take him out towards the wind. Really easy flying with this much weight. Remember, I have all those sensors off. So I want him to be able to deploy. So I'm gonna take him pretty high. Still swinging there on the bottom. I wanna be careful because I've got that rubber band, right? How high are we? We are 133 feet high. I think that's far enough out. Let's go to 150 feet. So I'm just going up a little right here. So now the wind's coming from that direction. It's really variable, guys. So this may be a disaster in where it lands, but let's just try it. Maybe I'll go over this way a little bit. You see how there's nobody underneath me, so I want to be careful. There's that little guy swinging down there. Okay, ready? Let's try it. So I'm gonna press the right trigger and hopefully it releases. Remember, I am recording the video, so at least we'll see him drop. And I probably won't be able to, but I'll try to follow him with the camera. At least my hat cam will. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, click. Oh, there he goes. Oh, can you guys see him? Pick it up, pick it up. Where is he? Oh, he's flying right over my head. Oh, nice. He's gonna go. Uh-oh, I hope he doesn't go into the school area. Okay, good. We missed the power lines just barely. And it's landing over there in that corner of the park. So we gauged it a little under, but that's fine. Hopefully you guys could kind of see where it landed on the camera over there. That was awesome. Let's bring this guy down and let's do our pros and cons. That wind really took it. And luckily the power lines looked a little closer than they actually were, but they're about 20 feet that direction. So luckily it came down and perfect right here. So if you ever think you're gonna kind of gauge something, especially with the wind, like this kind of stuff, you know, dropping parachutes and stuff like that, you really got to give yourself like a big buffer of space, and it's really hard to, you know, kind of time it right and distance it right. But you know, just a little bit of thought in how fast the wind's blowing in one direction, and really like how big the parachute is, you can kind of figure out approximately how far it'll travel. But there we go. Spawn is unscathed. I still even have my rubber band here around his leg, and that worked really well. I mean, it's not going to really be good for like vigorous flopping around. Probably it might have like broke off, but just that rubber band held the parachute to his back, kind of a double circle pin system right into the pin of the Mavic 2, and man, really impressive. Worked really well. Okay, well, like I was saying, that went great. We got a lot of valuable info with that little test on both the Mavic 2 Pro and the Mavic Air 2. Gonna be doing something with the Mini, although there isn't really a lighting switch they have for the Mini that I've seen yet, so it might just have to be like an RF switch, but we'll do something with that. At least see how much weight the Mini also can carry too. Speaking of the weight, this actually did better. Remember, this could actually hold about 4 more ounces of weight, actually even more, but then it would go into that, what was it, motor overspeed warning on the motors, because it was trying to keep itself up, so it was spinning the motors faster, sucking more power, and then it had these errors where it would try to land, so you got to be really careful with that. Didn't seem to do that with 1 pound and 4 ounces. Okay, so this was the magic number for the Mavic 2 Pro. 1 pound 4 ounces seemed to be able to withstand that and fly it around without it trying to do that landing thing. Of course, if you're running into more wind, turbulence, you're pulling the line out from your pole, that's going to also be more stress and more weight. But I would honestly, just to be safe, keep it limited to 1 pound. Okay, 16 ounces seem to work best for this, and also surprisingly the Mavic 2 Air. And the Mavic 2 Air didn't have any of those motor overspeed warnings and then try to land. All it would have is maximum power warning of the motors warning pop up on the screen, but you could still be flying. I don't know for how long, but because I kind of let some weight off when we got to that point. But again, 1 pound of weight that this thing can carry effectively. We flew it around, both of them, flew them both around, and we could see how responsive they were at stopping. Did very good laterally. You could also gain altitude even with a pound of weight on here. Dropping, just be careful. You don't want to drop full blast. And then it seems like if you're stopping right around 10 feet, it wants to almost hit the ground because it doesn't have enough buffer area to make up for that momentum. So I would say just come down a little bit slower when you're getting near the ground or if you're over water. Getting into the differences and the pros and cons of both mechanism, airdrops. This one, it was kind of like they thought it was going to be able to use one of the front sensors. So that, like I was saying in the unboxing, they built the mold for this, but then realized you could only turn off the front, the bottom light, not the front lights. So they repurposed the sensor in the instructions for the bottom. Kind of clunky put together. They needed to include the foam and maybe a whole nother bracket for the bottom, but they didn't do that. It's like they just threw it in the box, the one that was for the arm. But we got it to work. Just make sure you put that little foam piece to block the sunlight or your lights if you're fishing at night from going in. As you can see, there's no blockage here on the bottom of the Mavic 2 drop mechanism, so that's a bonus. Easier to clip things on. But as you could see, we could clip things on and then just like, you could do it yourself. Better if you had a buddy fishing with you or something. Clip things on while it's not even flying and then just hand launch like this. So you could have your bait and your line hanging this way and the line hanging over to your pole and just launch it just like that. Just make sure you don't get any line in your propellers. And you can see how easy that was to launch. Same thing for the Mavic Air 2. Launches very easily from the hand, so you could rig this up before it's even launched and then just hand launch it. So very simple on both items. Then again, would you buy this instead of like a Swell Pro? You might consider it. It's a better drone all around. It's more of an advanced drone. So not only can you fish with it, but you can get way better photography and cinematography and even pictures than those waterproof Swell Pro drones as they are now. Depending on in the future, maybe Swell Pro will advance to more better technology like the DJI products. Swell Pro has a pretty old technology in their drones. The only good thing they really have going for them is the actual drone is waterproof. If you were to dunk one of these in the water, it's pretty much done, especially if it's salt water and you're ocean fishing. If you do dunk these for a short time in fresh water, I've done that in my pool. You guys may have seen my original Mavic dunk test in the water. Will survive fresh water as long as you take it out right away and you do the proper drying. As our last little bonus, this thing worked really great. I'm glad it worked fine. That whole rubber band system, really just a jerry-rigged little system that seemed to work just fantastic. As long as that parachute is coiled up and it's just all holding together. You can do fun stuff like that. You could also drop water balloons. Of course, you don't want to drop anything controversial or dangerous. I like to just have fun, do fun things with them, and for fishing. So anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed that pretty extensive review of these two drop mechanisms and also how much these two drones can carry, their maximum weight, and how effectively they can fly. And we also got a little indication of how long they can fly with that much weight. Seemed to cut down their flight time about in half. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, all the products I review, like these two airdrops and also the drones I'm reviewing them on, are all in the description down below. So don't forget to check that out, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Just realized that some of you guys might want to know if these drop mechanisms can fit in the Flymore combo bags. I usually just like to carry my drones. If I do get the Flymore combo, I like to use the minimalistic approach and just carry a very small bag. So the Flymore combo bags are very small and they can barely squeeze in usually everything they come with. I usually don't bring my chargers with me when I do flights. If I do, I leave it in the car, so no big deal. This is just to see if they can fit back in the cases without the charger. Now the Mavic 2, you can actually leave the armband on the sensor and close it all up. So I have a battery on the Mavic 2 Pro, and we're just going to put it right in where it goes in its little cubby here. You can see how all this kind of squeezes in there. And then I have the drop mechanism is actually down in the bottom. So you put that all the way down in the bottom, and then you can just close that all up, and you're ready to put your controller in and a second battery. And I guess you could put a third battery. You could squeeze it right in here on the top, right next to that, or possibly even put your charger in here. So you might even be able to put your charger in. So let's see if this all zips up. There we go. Yep. Don't forget on this one, you also have these sides. So definitely a charger could fit here and another battery. So actually you can fit that whole drop mechanism and the whole kit in there. Now let's try the Mavic Air 2. So I got 2 batteries in the side there, and I have 1 battery already in the craft. So of course this one you have to take off the whole drop mechanism because you have to unclip it from the bottom. So this is going to go in its own compartment there. We're going to put the controller where it goes in its own compartment here, and it looks like we can just kind of dump all this stuff, all the legs and the drop mechanism itself, extended legs, in there, and there you go. So it might be tough to squeeze the charger and or a third battery in, but it looks like both of them can fit the drop mechanism airdrop right in their own Flamware combo cases. Good to know.